Welcome to Learning with Miss Roz, Sewing Edition. In this tutorial, you will learn how to sew a grocery bag. First, let's see what skills are needed to sew this bag. If you can say yes to the following, then you are ready to start. Can you thread a sewing machine? Can you thread a bobbin? Do you know how to clean up your sewing machine at the end of the class period? Can you sew a straight line, a back stitch? Can you sew on a pivot? Can you sew an overlap stitch? And can you sew a hem? Now, let's see what equipment and materials we need in order to complete the project. Make sure you have all of the following: a sewing machine, thread and a matching bobbin, pins, scissors, fabric shears, an iron and an ironing board, and 1 medium yard of medium weight fabric, also known as decorative fabric. First thing we need to do is cut out the pattern. You should have received a pattern from Miss Roz. First, lay out your papers so that the pages 1 through 4 are on the top and then pages 5 through 8 are on the bottom. A couple notes about taping your pattern together. The more precise you tape the pages together, the more accurate your pattern will be. Also, make sure to tape anywhere along the pattern edge where 2 pages meet. This is where you will cut out your pattern. You want to make sure your pattern doesn't fall apart when you cut it out. Inspect your paper pattern and tape anywhere else you may find necessary to ensure it stays together. Now you're ready to cut the pattern out. Next step is to cut out the fabric pieces. You will see that you need 1 piece of fabric that is 19 inches by 36 inches for the body of the bag. You also need 2 pieces of fabric that are 4 inches by 36 inches for the 2 handles. The last piece of fabric you need is one that is 12.5 inches by 19 inches for the bottom of the bag. To do this, your first step is to iron your piece of fabric. You want to make sure it lays flat. Then you can fold the piece of fabric in half. Lay your body and bottom pattern pieces down. Be sure to line up the side of the pattern that says fold along the folded part of the fabric. Do not cut the fold. To cut the fabric out for the handle, fold your piece of fabric. Then fold it again along the other side of the fabric. This should cause there to be 4 layers of fabric. Now you can match the pattern piece side where it says fold to along the edge where there are 2 folds. You will be cutting the other long folds so that you end up with 2 long handles. How many pieces of fabric do you have now? On to making the straps. Take one of the straps and fold and press 1/4 inch along the long edge of the strap. Then fold and press 1¼ inches along the other long edge. Now fold and press the strap in half lengthwise. Repeat this with the other strap. Next, you need to sew the straps. You will sew each strap twice. The first time, sew along the open edge. Be sure to stay about 1/4 inch away from the edge. Don't forget to backstitch at the beginning and the end. Now you will sew along the other long edge parallel to the first line of stitching. Repeat with the other handle. Now we will attach the strap to the body of the bag. First, take the fabric from the body of the bag and fold it hamburger style. It will be closer to the shape of a square. Press and fold to emphasize the crease in the middle. Next, you will create a double hem on both sides of the fabric. This will become the top of your bag. First, fold and press 1/2 inch along the edge. Then fold and press 1 inch again. Repeat the same for the other edge. You will stitch this similarly to how you stitch the handles. Stitch a straight line along the open fold and then stitch a second line along the edge of the other fold, both 1/4 inch from the edge, complete for both sides of the bag. Next is to measure where to attach your straps. Measure down 10.5 inches from the top hem and place a pin. Then measure 5.5 inches from the raw side inward toward the 10.5 inch mark. Place a pin perpendicularly to your first pin. Line up your strap with the two measurements. Do the same for the other end of the strap. Be sure the straps are not twisted. Repeat the same for the other side of the bag. Now sew the strap down. Start at the top of the strap and sew along the top hemline. Then pivot when you get to the edge of the handle and sew all the way down the handle. Pivot again and sew across the handle, and then pivot one more time and sew up the handle until you get back to the top of the hem. You can finish here and backstitch now if you would like. However, if you want to try and reinforce the strap, you can follow along the next steps of directions. Otherwise, fast forward until you get to the sewing the bottom. To reinforce the handle, you will sew over the stitching along the top hem. Then you will pivot so you can sew a diagonal to the bottom corner. Next, you will pivot. Now you will sew along the bottom hem. Now you need to pivot again. Be careful with all that fabric. Now you will be sewing along the second diagonal. You will pivot once more. Now sew to the bottom of the hem. Pivot again. Now you will sew over the bottom hem. Lastly, you will do a large back stitch all the way back and all the way forward. To sew the bottom, take the piece of fabric and fold it hot dog style. It should be thin and long. Press and fold to emphasize the crease. Now, fold and press 1/4 inch along the long edge and repeat for the other edge. This will create a hem. Place the bottom piece of fabric on top of the body of the bag, lining up the crease so they match and are on top of each other. Pin the hems to the body of the bag and sew along the edge of the fabric to attach the bottom to the body of the bag. Sew again 1/4 inch away from the first line of stitching. Once the bottom is attached, fold in half, making sure to match the top of the bag with each other. From the bottom of the bag, mark 4 inches up with a pin on the left side and the right side of the bag. You will then fold the top of the bag down on both sides. The bottom will be folded up inside the bag and create a pleat. Pin the sides of the bag and then sew 1/4 inch away from the raw edge from the top of the bag to the bottom, sewing through all the layers of fabric. To finish the raw edge, you will overlock stitch to prevent the fabric from raveling. You are finished sewing the bag. Turn the bag right side out and then press to make it more presentable.